to our show. This is Locked In here on the Ref Sports Radio Network. Parker Thune alongside Grayson Singleton in the Buffalo Wild Wings studios. If you're listening on the KREF app, let me make sure, like, this is the equivalent of doing the left-right thing with your fingers.
Uh-huh.
I have to1check the email that we all got to make sure I give you the correct instructions. Yes, it's Channel 1 on the KREF app. That is the OU baseball game. So if you want to listen to Toby's call of OU baseball, choose Channel 1 on the app. If you would prefer to listen to me and Grayson, or if you're currently tuning in on YouTube and you find it more convenient to tune in via the app, let's say you're about to hit the road for one reason or another, you can no longer watch on YouTube. You need to switch to a more versatile means of distribution, I suppose. Then you can tune in once again via Channel 2 on the KREF app. If you're listening right now on the radio, one way or another, make sure you download the app and search KREF, because you're going to want to have the KREF app at your disposal. It's just generally a good practice because you can take it with you anywhere.
I mean, absolutely. I mean, you can listen to us worldwide as, we do our Ref Army locator during the rush. We got people listening from everywhere. I mean, you can watch us on YouTube while you're on the road. I wouldn't recommend it, but also I'm not going to sit up here and say I've never done similar things.
Listen, don't watch. Listen, don't watch.
Exactly.
That's the best practice when you're on the road. We were having a whole conversation last hour, Steely and I, with the Knippelmeyer Chevrolet text line, because I forget which listener it was. Somebody was going in on engineers on the text line.
Yeah, I heard this.
About how engineers are the worst, they're overpaid, they don't actually do any work. I will say the rest of the populace doesn't do a whole lot of favors to really anyone, and certainly doesn't dismiss the notion. I'm not sure if this is a worse look on the populace or engineers when what happened during the break as we were preparing for the show occurs. Because what happened was Drake, who is our engineer, walked into the studio to try and figure out why the camera wasn't working. And we'd had several different folks in the studio over the last couple of hours getting the whole YouTube end of things situated. We had the Jeremiah Fears interview. Obviously, Steely and I have been streaming live on YouTube for the last 2 hours. And now, of course, we're streaming Locked In. The camera wasn't working. Drake Dykin walks in the studio and immediately diagnoses the issue, which is that the lens cap was on the camera. So again, I'm not sure if that reflects more poorly on all of us or if it really just is indeed true that engineers like Drake don't actually do any meaningful work and are paid more handsomely than they deserve for it. One way or another, their services are needed because apparently we're all idiots.
You have no idea how many times I go out to a high school game and my camera guy is there early enough to help us set up. And so we hook up everything. We hook the camera into the computer, and it's just black. And our camera guy's like, "Hey, look, I tried everything. I can't figure it out." That one little switch that you never think about.
The conclusion that we've come to is that all engineers really do is capitalize off the idiocy of the rest of the human population.
They make up for our ignorance.
Thank you, Drake Dykin, for not being ignorant. We appreciate you and all the work you do here at KREF.
And by the way, the people that say engineers aren't smart, those people are a hell of a lot smarter than me. I'll tell you that. I've seen the homework they do, and I lived with an engineer my senior year of college. I ain't trying to do all that.
What kind of an engineer? Electrical, petroleum, mechanical? Chemical. Oh, okay. So a nerd.
Yes.
Major nerd.
Yes. I ain't trying to do all that.
What was he trying to do career-wise?
Could not tell you. He has a job in Tulsa right now, though.
I bet he makes more than you and I. He maybe combined.
Maybe not combined, but he definitely makes more than us individually, I'll tell you that.
If you want to chime in throughout the show, the Knippelmeyer Chevrolet text line is how you can do so. 405-651-3439. This hour of programming here on the Ref brought to you by Dorsey Jones Buick GMC. Today is Friday. You know what that means. For one thing, It's less than an hour till my weekend.
Facts.
And secondly, tomorrow, you can get a half-price oil change at Dorsey Jones Buick GMC. They got half-price oil changes on Saturdays, in addition to a fantastic sales environment out there, low pressure, great friendly staff, all that and much more available to you if you make the short drive out to El Reno and do business with the folks out at Dorsey Jones Buick GMC. Grayson, where I want to start today is where we started yesterday, because we have some source wars that are actively going on.
Oh, those are the best.
Not publicly to be clear, but behind the scenes. Because, as you'll recall, yesterday morning, Pete Thamel, national college football reporter for ESPN, put it out there that Oklahoma Assistant Director of Player Personnel J.P. Lossman, the former first-round NFL draft pick who played 8 years in the league as a quarterback, was going to depart the program to become the assistant quarterbacks coach at the University of Washington. And, of course, when you see it from someone like Pete Thamel, Grayson, you think, okay, well, yep, there it is. Don't really have to give that a second thought. It's happening.
Usually his word is gospel.
That may not be the case here.
Oh, boy.
Because within a matter of hours, probably about an hour and a half after we got off the air yesterday, I started getting word from several different sources on the matter that, hey, it's not a for sure thing that JP's leaving. And the other aspect of it that we discussed is that it's not only J.P. Lossman that the University of Oklahoma employs, it's his wife, Zoo, who works with the Soul Mission. She is the Director of Player and Parent Relations, I believe is her title. But you lose J.P. Lossman, you lose Zoo as well. So that's a double whammy for Oklahoma if that were to come to fruition. And it looked yesterday as though it was, because why would you question a report from somebody with the type of platform and the type of credibility that Pete Thamel has? Well, again, folks, I don't know what the outcome is going to be. It doesn't sound like there's been a decision made one way or another conclusively, but I have been told from the OU side of things, hey, the Lossmans aren't leaving, like not right now. Could that happen? Perhaps. But as of right now, nothing is imminent between JP and Washington as far as his hiring to be their assistant quarterbacks coach. So I don't know if that's just a case of bad sourcing or a guy like Pete jumping the gun, which obviously he doesn't typically do. His information is generally on the money. But it does appear as though all may not be lost with regard to the Soul Mission, because, of course, what was the narrative on the Knippelmeyer Chevrolet text line yesterday after that news was made public? Well,
just dump it.
Is there anybody even left on the staff at Soul Mission? Is there anybody still in that department? Josh Norman left. Curtis Lofton left. Who else left? Somebody else left.
Ryan Young?
Ryan Young left. Yep. Zoo Lossman's leaving now. Okay, you got Caleb King Kelly still there. Is he the Lone Ranger? The lone survivor? Well, I'll say this. Zoo, and we talked about this yesterday, a very integral piece to the puzzle on that side of things for Oklahoma. And as of right now, there is an expectation that Oklahoma is going to retain their services, the services of both JP and Zoo. So we'll see how it turns out. But that's obviously a fortuitous twist in the saga for Oklahoma, because having to replace another departed member of the personnel staff and another departed member of the Soul Mission staff, probably not what you want to be dealing with in an offseason where there already is so much to replace.
To state the obvious, this keeps a lot of continuity around the program and a lot of relational continuity with the Soul Mission when it comes to recruiting. So there's your big obvious win there. Here's my question, and I've come to believe this with watching multiple stories, when they get released, when they don't get released. You watch the Luka and AD trade where nobody knew about it. And the reason I bring that up is this. When things get out, they get out because somebody wants them out.
Correct.
They do not arbitrarily get floated into the ether and make their way to the Pete Thamels of the world. Somebody wanted this out, which leads me to believe that Oklahoma just from deductive reasoning, is not out of the woods yet when it comes to retaining J.P. Lossman and his wife. This didn't come from anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
Now my question is, what's going on behind the scenes? Is there something with the contract on the Washington side? Is J.P. Lossman just having second thoughts and walking this back? So when it comes to the Pete Thamel of things, because this is our industry reporting, I do believe that he got good information. I just believe there's a twist to it. I believe something unforeseen happened, and maybe JP is like, I want to stay here.
And here's the most clarity I can provide as of right now, and I had this on multiple accounts yesterday from multiple different people who would know firsthand knowledge of the situation. They said there was a message sent out from Zoo Lossman to several families involved with the Oklahoma football program, letting them know, hey, as of right now, we're not leaving, and if we are, y'all will be the first to know. So, nothing set in stone yet. Obviously, that doesn't mean it's not happening, but as of right this second, it's not a for sure done deal that Washington is hiring J.P. Lossman away from Oklahoma. So, if nothing else, that means J.P. can throw at pro day again. Don't got to burn a quarterback's arm for that. Have you ever seen J.P. Lossman throw?
Oh, I've seen the videos. He's got a cannon.
He's still got it.
Oh, yeah.
He's still got it.
But now here's what the question begs now. Who wanted this out?
Washington, I would imagine. And, this happens. This happens in the industry, and it's something that you have to learn the hard way, usually a couple times, because, you get back in the groove, and then you'll forget, I got to be watching out for this. I got to make doubly sure on certain things. But, if somebody that you trust brings something to the table, and you don't really have any reason to question the veracity of what they're telling you, like let's say, and I'm just speculating here, let's say it was Jed Fish himself who sent Pete Thamel a text and said, hey, I'm hiring J.P. Lossman. If it's coming from Jed Fish, you're probably thinking, okay, well, I can put that out, like what are the odds?
You would imagine.
Yeah. I don't need to bend over backwards to corroborate that if it's coming from the head coach at the University of Washington. Like, there are certain sources that are authoritative enough that you will, and you won't necessarily always put that information out just based on their word, but you will certainly feel an urge, like, okay, I can go ahead and report this. Because if I were to run it down, the overwhelming odds are that I'm going to be told, yep, that's 100% true. So, the reporters industry is a very competitive world. You got to get stuff out or else somebody else is going to get it out ahead of you. And so we've all been there. That can prompt you to work a little bit too fast at times and not properly vet information. Or maybe it's just a case of, hey, he was going to Washington and he got cold feet. Again, I don't know all of the gory details there, but I would imagine, if I had to guess, probably something where Thamel got a tip from somebody that he trusts with close to 100% certainty, and it just so happened that that particular source jumped the gun a little bit in passing that along. On the Knippelmeyer Chevrolet text line, Slim Brady says, I say get rid of Soul Mission and start up NIL Mission. Yeah, guess what? That already exists. It's called One Oklahoma. Those folks are great. They brought us Jeremiah Fears a couple of hours ago for an in-person interview. Right,
he was good, too.
Studios. He was good. He talks very softly.
He does.
I had to max out his mic volume.
I mean, he is.
But it was a good interview.
I mean, he is still a kid.
Mm-hmm.
Did you actually have to max out his volume?
Dude, it was all the way up. It was all the way up. I was like, if he had talked any softer, there was nothing I could have done at that point. But yeah, it worked out. Great interview. Well-spoken. Well-spoken. Soft-spoken, but well-spoken. Really enjoyed having Jeremiah Fears in. And obviously, that is due to our partnership with One Oklahoma that we could get Jeremiah Fears in the studio today. If you want to support One Oklahoma, or as Slim Brady has described it, NIL Mission, you can go to joinoneoklahoma.com. Or is it joinoneoklahoma.com or is it oneoklahoma.com?
I think
it's the Twitter handle. Yeah, I got the Twitter handle conflated with the actual website in my head. It's oneoklahoma.com.
Yeah.
The Twitter handle is at joinoneoklahoma. So, if that's how you want to contribute to OU's quote-unquote NIL mission, by all means, jump on board. The salary cap era is coming to college football pretty soon. And so at that point, you won't have to worry about an arms race. But we're not quite there yet. Probably get there by the end of the calendar year. But as of right now, any contributions that you can and do make to One Oklahoma will be much appreciated by those folks and the student athletes at the University of Oklahoma. All right, let's hit an opening timeout here on Locked In. Grayson, Singleton, Parker Thune here with you in the Buffalo Wild Wings studios. Keep filling it up on the Knippelmeyer Chevrolet text line 405-651-3439. We'll be back on the other side. Keep it right here.
Hey Sooner fans, this is Jaron Kanik, and you're listening to The Ref, the home of Sooner fans.
Have you or someone you know suffered a loss to your home or business from the recent storms? Before you accept a settlement, call Brown O'Haver at 405-735-5510. Brown O'Haver is a local-based company helping Oklahomans with claims since 1988 with preparation and expert analysis detailing your loss and insurance settlement. As your trusted consultant, Brown O'Haver can give you peace of mind and make sure you're getting what's yours. Call Brown O'Haver today, 405-735-5510, and make sure they're working for you.
Coach Stoops here for Van Hoos Fence. If you want to work with the best local fence company and get championship service, contact my friend Mark and the Van Hoos Fence team. Van Hoos Fence gives each customer the most professional craftsmanship and competitive pricing in Oklahoma. From wood to chain link to vinyl to metal fences, the Van Hoos Fence team does it all. Contact the Fencing All-Americans at Van Hoos Fence, 405-735-1167 or vhfence.com.
Imagine one step, and suddenly a fall turns into a fracture. For many, osteoporosis is a hidden threat, weakening bones silently until it's too late. At the Ortho Central Bone Health Clinic, we believe in personalized care to keep bones strong and resilient. Led by advanced practitioner Amanda Boyd, our team specializes in detection and personalized treatment plans, from bone density testing to strengthening bones after a fracture. Take charge of your bone health today. Call Ortho Central's Bone Health Clinic and let's build better bones together.
March is almost here, and the home of Sooner fans is ready to make the best 68 team giveaway better than ever again this year. Join us Monday, March 17th for the Ref's 24th annual 68 team giveaway, live at Buffalo Wild Wings off of 19th Street and more from noon to 7. The Ref's 68 team giveaway is presented by Riverwind Casino. Riverwind Casino. Good times, great rewards. The Ref, the home of Sooner fans, and your home for the best giveaways this March.
Whether you're celebrating a special occasion, desire a great post-game, or after-work dining experience, the Ranch Steakhouse is the winning choice. At Ranch Steakhouse, we're grilling up the best USDA prime steaks in Oklahoma. Juicy, flavorful, and cooked to perfection. Pair that with an unbeatable atmosphere, a killer drink selection, and a wine list of over 400 personally curated bottles. Whether you're toasting the game or winding down after a big day, Ranch Steakhouse is where champions eat. Hi everybody, Toby Rowland here. And are you and your family looking for a place to golf in 2025? The Trails Golf Club in Norman is perfect for you. The Trails give you the opportunity for you and your family to spend quality time together by playing golf, enjoying the pool in the summertime, along with many family fun-filled activities around holidays. Plus, one of the best restaurants in town. Now is the perfect time to join the Trails. Contact Zane Alexander today at 405-360-3790 or visit trailsgolf.com.
Hi, this is Jack Kiker with Knippelmeyer Chevrolet, located in Blanchard, America. My grandfather, Larry Knippelmeyer, tells me everybody deserves to save money, so say goodbye to those pushy big-time dealers with all those add-ons like paint protectors, nitrogen tires, and everything else that they could possibly think of. Then come down to Knippelmeyer Chevrolet, just 15 minutes from OKC or Norman. At Knippelmeyer, we will save you money and make sure you get a good buy from a family-owned dealership that has treated customers like family for over 65 years. Chevrolet, together let's drive.
Retirement can be scary, but only if you're not prepared. That's why AARP created thisispretirement.org. Because unless you've already retired, you're in pretirement, and you still have time to plan. Learn about retirement savings options, potential tax breaks, and how you can build savings over time. Visit thisispretirement.org for free resources to help you customize your action plan and feel the retirement fear disappear. Brought to you by AARP and the Ad Council.
Breaking news, folks.
Okay.
We have received confirmation that TJ Perry is at a sporting event, live and in person. I repeat, TJ Perry is attending a sporting event. He is currently at the OU baseball opener against Lehigh.
That's what I was going to guess.
In fact, he posted a photo to his very own Twitter account confirming that he is in attendance at the OU Lehigh baseball matchup. Also, the early word is that Kyson Witherspoon sitting about 97, 98 with the fastball.
You'll take that.
That'll play. That's ace material. I don't know if he'll wind up being the ace. We'll see. But 97, 98 to start the season? Hello. You'll take that all day long. OU and Lehigh currently underway over at Elldale Mitchell Park. I am monitoring my Twitter feed. I mostly rely on Ronnie Crimson for baseball updates. Ronnie, if you're listening, I appreciate all of your fine work. Ronnie keeps us good and updated on all things OU baseball. Sooners and Lehigh in the first frame there.
Gunny of Stutzman's Army on the Knippelmeyer Chevrolet text line. Baseball is the only sport he will attend. Is that the only sport he goes to?
Yeah.
Interesting.
I'm fairly certain. Yes. I cannot ever recall seeing TJ Perry at a sporting event that was not an OU baseball game.
He goes to Rangers games.
Well, okay. Yes, I meant OU sporting events.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. He is a diehard Texas Rangers fan.
He is.
No doubt about that. Gunny also said, hey, fellas, big OU baseball fan. When does the season start? Got great news for you, Gunny. Skip and the boys are back in town.
Go ahead and cut up those gummies, take a seat, and enjoy some baseball, Gunny.
We know Gunny will be both watching and stoned. That is how he rolls. Okay, interesting question. And I was sitting at home last night after eating a delicious burger for dinner.
From where?
Butcher Box.
Okay.
That's the move, folks. Get Butcher Box. You pay I think we pay like $170 a month, and they just deliver an enormous box of various cuts of meat to your front porch. And so one of the things that we always get included in our box is burger patties, and so we cooked some burgers last night. And so I was sitting there after having a burger and a couple of oatmeal chocolate chip cookies, and I was thinking, what would be good fodder tomorrow to get the text line going? And I was thinking about the past few recruiting classes in the state of Oklahoma, which, by the way, Johnny H. said, app sucks, can't get either channel to work very well. Heard Parker for maybe 10 seconds. Thanks for the technology. It's great. Sorry, Johnny H. I don't have any control over that. I'm just the guy talking. So hopefully you can get that worked out. But if not, you can always tune in via your radio dial. We'd like to have you listening via the KREF app, but if the Ref app isn't working for whatever reason, you can always turn on that radio to 1400 AM. But here's what I was considering. The last few classes in the state of Oklahoma, it always seems to be the case, naturally, that going into the tail end of a recruiting cycle, the respective senior years of the recruits that comprise the cycle, you have that upper tier of surefire, elite Power 4 prospects that are nationally coveted. And there always seems to be a pretty clearly defined tier between those guys and then everybody else. And I would say most years there are 20 to 30 players in the state of Oklahoma. If it's a bumper crop, sometimes more. But 20 to 30 players in the state of Oklahoma that are good enough to go play Power 4, or I'm sorry, not Power 4, but FBS football on scholarship. 20 to 30 guys that wind up with FBS scholarships and sign somewhere in the FBS to play college football. But there also always seem to be at least one, sometimes multiple guys that come their senior year really have a meteoric rise to a new level of notoriety. A great recent example of this would be Andy Bass in the class of 2024. Because if you'll recall, going into those kids, the class of 2024, their senior years, the pretty clear top three in the state, the three guys that were the most highly regarded as high school football players were Danny Okoye out of Tulsa Noah, Zadavian Sims, who signed with Oregon out of Durant, and then, of course, Xavier Robinson at Midwest City Carl Albert. And beyond those guys, you had a bunch of dudes. And Oklahoma signed several within state lines in the 2024 class. Josh Isosa, an example of a guy that was sitting outside that top tier by most accounts, but obviously good enough to go play Power 4 football, and he was able to do so in his home state. Got a scholarship to Oklahoma. But Andy Bass was somebody that after his junior year had a bunch of Ivy League schools coming after him, had a few MAC schools. That was really it. His first Power 4 offer, I believe, was from Syracuse in May of 2023, about 3 months before the start of his senior year. And then it wasn't until he showed up to OU's camp in June that the Sooners offered him an opportunity to continue his football career at Oklahoma as a preferred walk-on. Now, ultimately, he did wind up committing to Oklahoma within the first couple of weeks of the beginning of his senior year. But then we know what happened afterwards. Andy Bass had one of the most memorable individual seasons that Oklahoma high school football has seen in the 21st century. I believe the final tally was 68 total touchdowns, which is astronomical in its own right.
What?
That much more so for a guy that oftentimes wasn't playing the second half of games, Grayson. He was not playing the second half of most games. He was almost never playing the fourth quarter of games because Heritage Hall was blowing the doors off anybody they went up against. And so he was doing all this. I mean, you could set your watch to it. Every Saturday morning, you'd wake up and there'd be a new tweet. Oh, Andy Bass threw for 350, ran for 250 more, and had 6 touchdowns in the first half. And then took a seat the rest of the game. That was the Andy Bass experience.
Short work.
And naturally, he wound up being the recipient of numerous accolades for his senior season, including the Gatorade Player of the Year distinction in the state of Oklahoma. But that's what put the rest of the nation on to Andy Bass. Oh, this kid that's walking on at Oklahoma, he's a stud. And I believe by the end of his recruitment, he had several Power 4 offers. Obviously, Syracuse, Kansas State offered. His final 3 right before he committed was OU, Syracuse, Kansas State. OU won out. But it was really the span of about 3 months there. August to November of 2023, where if you didn't know Andy Bass's name already, now you did. And everybody knew his name by the time November rolled around. As we look at the class of 2026 in the state of Oklahoma right now, again, you have a very clear top tier. You have a top 3 in the state of Oklahoma. 3 prospects that, by most accounts, are head and shoulders above the rest. That the consensus opinion would suggest, okay, these guys have elevated themselves above the pack. They comprise the peloton, if you will. You have Mason James, the 4-star wideout at Norman North. You have Caden Jones, the son of Kewan Jones, 4-star running back from Jenks, Oklahoma. And then you have Taj Overton, the 4-star defensive lineman from Owasso. Those are the 3. Those are the 3 that stand out above the rest. A kid that I really, really like, too, that I don't think is quite on that level but could put himself on that same level with a strong senior year, and this is kind of what I'm getting at, Adam Austin, who's currently committed to Arkansas. He's from Lawton Mac. Really, really good player. Really impressively built, instinctual safety that I think is going to have a heck of a career with the Razorbacks, but also should have a heck of a senior year at Lawton Mac. Looking at the landscape of the state on the recruiting front, Grayson, is there anybody that springs to mind for you? You think, okay, over the next few months, maybe they're not mentioned in the same breath as Mason James and KD Jones and Taj Overton right now, but by November, December, we could be elevating them to that conversation.
This guy does not have a star on him right now, but he should, especially once his senior year gets going. Dejon Ackerson, DJ Ackerson, the linebacker safety at Putnam City.
Yes and amen.
He is a guy I saw a couple of years ago when Deer Creek played him, and I was calling Deer Creek's games. when they were in 6A2. He's fantastic. Some places have him listed as a safety. He never really lines up at safety. He's a linebacker. But with his size, 6'2", 195 right now, going into his senior year, he is the quintessential cheetah. And the way he plays, it is a direct comp to Kendall Daniels, who you just brought over from Oklahoma State, presumably to play that very position. Very fast, very instinctual, smart guy. When he gets his arms around you, you're not going anywhere else. He is that good. I love how he plays in zone coverage, so he can drop a little bit too. That makes him really good for the cheetah spot. So keep an eye on that guy. Oklahoma, I believe, has already offered him. Oklahoma State's in there as well, and I think that offer list is going to grow as his senior season goes along. So I think OU is going to be in a dogfight for him. But if that's a guy that you can bring in, I think he fits really, really well with the Brent Venables defense, assuming he's the head coach in 2026.
I tell you, there's another offer candidate, and Dejon Ackerson absolutely warrants a mention. I think the odds right now are that he winds up in OU's class, but there should be more big offers coming his way, and he's not in any hurry to wrap up the process. So we'll see what happens there. But another guy that is very much an offer candidate and is literally right down the road, Grayson. I mean, 3 miles from where we sit right now? Daniel McMorris at Norman North.
Tackle.
Yes, offensive tackle, and he's got a really, really impressive athletic profile. Background in basketball, he needs to add weight. He needs to add quite a bit of weight.
What is he right now?
I believe he's listed at 265. That might be a little generous. And I don't know how much weight he's put on during the offseason, but having watched him in person this past fall, it was very, very clear, okay, there's something there. This kid could be a player, but he has to grow into his frame more. He has to fill out his frame more because right now it's clear that he's going to be an offensive tackle, but he could not take snaps at offensive tackle right now at the collegiate level. He's simply too slight. So if you can get McMorris bulked up, and I would think probably by his senior year, the coaching staff at Norman North is probably going to push to get him in the 280, 285 range, if that's plausible. And then if that's a guy that you can get to 300, because he's 6'6".
Mm-hmm. Yep.
He's a legit 6'6", too. If you can get him to 300 pounds by the time he steps on a college campus, he's going to be set. And there's a very high ceiling there. And I know Oklahoma has been monitoring McMorris. He has not received an offer yet, but he might have been the only non-offer guy that received an invite to Oklahoma's Elite Junior Day back in January. So what that tells you is that they're keeping an eye on that kid, and they are serious about him. Because historically speaking, if they invite a kid that doesn't have an offer to an exclusive event such as that one, it's not a nothing burger. Now, I would imagine what they want to see is a couple things. A, put on some weight for us. B, come to camp again in June, and maybe he's supposed to compete at the Under Armour Next camp down in Dallas this weekend. So that could be a good opportunity for him to put himself on the radar that much more. But I would think, especially given that Oklahoma's tackle board has been pretty well established for some time now, they're still fighting for Felix Ojo out of Mansfield Lake Ridge High School down in Texas.
Yep.
Still very much in the picture for Carter Scruggs, a kid with OU ties out in the state of Virginia, among others. They'll probably want to let things play out with some of those truly elite targets at the position. And by that time, the June camp dates roll around. You get another chance to get your own 2 eyes on him. And at that point, you can make a decision as to whether or not you're going to move forward. Because if you're offering a kid from Norman North, Grayson, how often is a Norman kid that has an offer from OU not going to choose the University of Oklahoma? It's not unprecedented, but it's
pretty
very rare.
Yeah, and by the way, I found my spot charts from when I called a Norman North game. Daniel McMorris this year played at 247.
I was about to say, he was probably 250 when I saw him, which would have been
the Norman North Deer Creek game that you came to.
Yes, exactly. That game.
Yes. Yeah, so I went back and found my notes. So he's going to need to put on a ton of weight. But he's good.
I forgot you were calling that game.
I did
was covering
call that game.
You were calling that game. Yeah. Deer Creek wiped the floor with Norman North.
That was before Norman North really got their footing on the season.
Yeah,
too.
I don't know what was going on there.
It was strange to say the least.
It took them a minute to get things in gear, but once they did.
Let me ask you about another tackle.
Yeah.
In Oklahoma from Broken Arrow, Caden Moody.
See, Caden Moody is another guy that I want to see with my own eyes before I render a verdict on him. From what I understand, and there's another tackle from up in the Tulsa area at Berry Hill, Aiden Martin, that has P4 offers as well. Among the 3 guys within state lines at that tackle spot that are good enough to warrant consideration for an OU offer in the 2026 class, McMorris, Martin, Moody, there seems to be the most interest on OU's part in McMorris. I think that's certainly because of the basketball background and because he's still something of a blank canvas. Right? Like, it's very clear that what he is right now is not what he's going to be by the end of his college career. There's so much more that you can unlock in his game. And so, especially given that OU just brought in Michael Fasusi and Ryan Foje in the 2025 class, it feels apparent that they would be perhaps even well-served to take a bit of a project in the 26 class.
Oh, for sure.
Because you're not going to land another top 100 type stud in all likelihood on the heels of signing Fasusi and Foje, because those guys are going to want a more immediate path to playing time, but also because it gives you some leeway to wait on a guy to develop. And I do think the ceiling for McMorris is exceptionally high.
Yeah, no, I would 1,000% agree with that, especially if you add Felix Ojo to the roster as well. If you're able to land him, you probably won't get another elite tackle after that for sure.
OU, they are in a really good spot for Felix Ojo. They were one of his very early offers. And he's visited several times.
What's the sly grin for?
Well, yes. There's an agent in the picture there. And from what I understand about said agent, there's going to be a lot of money tied up in this recruitment. Probably more than Oklahoma's willing to fork over for an offensive tackle, given what they just acquired last cycle in Fasusi and Foje.
Yeah.
So I'm past the point where I consider it a likelihood. Well, and I shouldn't say likelihood because I don't know that I ever considered it a likelihood that Ojo would wind up at Oklahoma, but I'm past the point where I would consider it a realistic possibility that Ojo winds up at OU. That very much feels like an outside shot right now to land a guy of that caliber who is, as of last check, the number 28 overall player in the nation. So probably a little bit ambitious to be shooting for a guy like that at the tackle spot at this point, especially with the aforementioned factors that are going to play into the whole process for him. Okay, chime in on the Knippelmeyer Chevrolet text line. Let us know, is there somebody in the state of Oklahoma that you really like? Obviously, the bulk of our listenership is here within state lines. I know you guys watch high school football. I know you guys are looking out for the next crop of OU caliber student athletes, especially on the gridiron. So, anybody we haven't mentioned yet? Let us know on the text line. We will return to continue talking OU football and recruiting with one final segment of Locked In for this week. On the other side, Grayson, Singleton, Parker Thune here with you on the Ref Sports Radio Network. Stay here.
Do you eat, sleep, and breathe Sooner football? We do too. This is the Ref, home of Sooner fans.
Fall in love with OKC's favorite casino.
Because at Riverwind, we've got it all.
Grab a bite at one of our many restaurants.
Or sip and spin at our high-stakes area.
And the Showplace Theater at Riverwind is the hottest spot for live music.
Shoot your shot at our $80,000 Cupid's Quest giveaway.
For the best gaming and unforgettable entertainment.
It's gotta be Riverwind.
Ever wonder why someone would wake up at the crack of dawn just for a chance at the unknown? Maybe a better question is, what are you waiting for? Pacifico is brewed for those who follow their own path. That's living life anchors up.
The Ref is the home of Sooner fans and is once again your home for chaos. Every game-changing hit.
Long fly ball to left. Track. Whoa. Gone.
Every strikeout.
Got him! Swing it!
Every defensive gem.
He caught it! He caught it!
Every game, all year, the Ref has you covered.
Sooner Baseball hits the field in doubleheader action today with pregame coverage starting at 1:30. They'll finish off the series versus Lehigh tomorrow. 1:30 pregame coverage, 2 o'clock first pitch right here on the Ref.
Hey, Sooner fans, we've got you covered. 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year.
No, we don't get a break.
This is the home of Sooner fans.
The Ref Sports Radio Network.
Looking for the ultimate way to bring fun to your home this season? Galaxy Home Recreation has you covered. From top-of-the-line pool tables, hot tubs with the best hydrotherapy in the business, to exciting home theater seating. Visit our showroom today and let our experts create the perfect setup for family fun or entertaining friends. Located outside of the Sooner Mall in Norman on the north side of the building. Mention this radio ad and receive your exclusive offer. Galaxy Home Recreation, family owned and operated in Oklahoma since 1975.
Are you, your family, or company looking for a locally owned and trusted management group? Carlsbad Management Group is an owner, developer, and manager of high-quality apartment communities in Oklahoma. They are a locally owned and operated management company for apartments and self-storage units. They are committed to providing exceptional apartment homes, customer service, and increasing the value of multi-family communities under our management. If you would like a free management quote today, call Carlsbad Management at 405-701-1411 and be part of the Carlsbad family.
There are trucks, then there's the truck. GMC Sierra, with available features like the V8 engine, the ultimate luxury interior, and of course, the available world's first 6-function multi-pro tailgate. GMC Sierra, not just any truck, the truck. GMC's continued commitment to professional-grade engineering is on full display at your Oklahoma GMC dealers. Come take a test drive today and see for yourself. We are professional-grade GMC.
Are you in need of purchasing your own health insurance? Are you turning 65 and confused about Medicare? Are you an employer looking at offering benefits to your staff? Call the agents at Allison Insurance. They'll sort through the confusion. They're not captive to just one company, and they'll get the best option for you. Don't get frustrated. Call Allison Insurance at 800-580-5587 or 745-2968. Allison Insurance. They are the experts.
When students struggle because they are hungry
or fall behind because they lack school supplies,
a caring adult can make all the difference.
Especially someone from the community.
Someone who knows the students
and the obstacles they might be facing.
At Communities in Schools, our site coordinators surround students with a community of support
to ensure that they have everything they need to engage in learning.
We go all in for kids, all day, every day.
To learn more, visit communitiesinschools.org.
How about a little OU baseball update? Sooners are pouring it on early against Lehigh. Already lead 3-0 after 2 innings. Kyson Witherspoon has tossed 2 perfect innings. He has faced 6 hitters. He has struck out 5 of them. Damn. Skip Johnson knows how to pick his JUCO boys. One of those highly touted JUCO transfers, first baseman Dayton Taki, went Apo Taco in the 2nd inning. That is the highlight so far of the Sooners' early scoring surge. Again, 3-0 is the lead. First OU at bat for Dayton Taki. He goes the other way for a solo home run. So that is where we stand right now. OU up 3-0 on Lehigh as Skip and the boys get the baseball season started. On the Knippelmeyer Chevrolet text line, 405-651-3439. Want to talk some more in-state recruiting in just a second, but wanted to bring up an interesting group of dominoes that has fallen throughout the week relevant to the coaching carousel, specifically the running backs coaching carousel. And obviously, earlier in the week, there was some talk that, hey, DeMarco Murray might wind up at Penn State. That was very quickly shot down.
They just hired a new running backs coach.
They did just hire a new running backs coach, and a really, really good one. Probably the guy that Oklahoma should have and would have gone and hired if Murray had left. Stan Drayton, former Temple head coach, first of all, should never have been a head coach. I don't know why Temple decided to hire a head coach that had never even been a coordinator before, but Stan Drayton is good at what Stan Drayton is good at, and he is good at coaching running backs. Arguably the best in the collegiate game, so Penn State lands his services to replace Jawan Sider. And DeMarco Murray staying put. Another interesting domino, though, as I mentioned, is that the University of Texas just lost their running backs coach the other day.
Tashard
Choice left for the Detroit Lions job. So he's going to coach running backs for the Lions next year. And now that presents a very interesting quandary for the Longhorns. And it could have a direct impact on Oklahoma, and here's why. We know that Texas has a ton of money. We know that Texas is also riding high off the emotional high of 2 straight college football playoff appearances. They lose a guy as impactful as Tashard Choice, and Tashard Choice was impactful. Absolutely one of the best in the game in coaching running backs, and there were several guys that are currently in that running backs room at Texas that committed and signed with the Longhorns primarily for Tashard Choice. But if they're going to lose a guy like that, they're going to bring in a guy that is the biggest home run hire they can muster because they're going for broke at this point. They very naturally see a championship window with Steve Sarkisian at the helm. And so the guy that Texas has identified as the likely successor for Tashard Choice, as far as I'm aware right now, and this would be an amazing hire by Texas, Keenan Hall, the running backs coach at Baylor. Now, why could that have an impact on Oklahoma? Well, let me explain. First off, in general, recruiting running backs in the Lone Star State is going to get a lot more difficult if Texas hires Keenan Hall, because if Keenan Hall puts on a burnt orange hat, he's going to be an absolute menace. He already is one heck of a recruiter for Baylor. He'll be that much better of a recruiter for Texas. But in the immediate sense, this could have a positive impact on Oklahoma's recruiting efforts in the 2026 class, because we've talked about where they stand with K.D. Jones, but who's the other running back that we have most frequently mentioned over the last couple of weeks?
Jonathan Hatton.
Not Jonathan Hatton, but Rylan Morris.
Rylan Morris, yes.
Rylan Morris, who is committed
to Baylor.
To Baylor, in no small part because of Keenan Hall. So, if Texas were to hire Keenan Hall, I can almost promise you at that point that Rylan Morris is winding up in OU's class.
Okay, so hold on a second. Before you jump to that, what are the odds that if Texas hires Keenan Hall, Rylan Morris doesn't just follow him to Austin?
Well, Texas has not yet offered Rylan Morris, and I don't know whether they're inclined to. I'm not sure how much autonomy Keenan Hall would have to build his own board at that point. It's something you'd have to worry about, certainly, is Texas jumping in play.
And here's why I think about this. Oklahoma had it offered Jet New until Ben Arbuckle came into town and stole him from Oklahoma State.
Yep.
So I mean, there is that dilemma that you have to consider.
Can I say something you're going to hate to hear?
Okay.
It's easier to steal kids from Oklahoma State than it is to steal them from Oklahoma.
Yeah, no kidding. I am very self-awareness is not one of my weaknesses.
I'm glad for that. Here's the thing, though. Like with where Rylan Morris's recruitment currently sits, he's visited Oklahoma a ton. Yeah. To my knowledge, he has never visited Texas. He does not have a Texas offer. And so, given that there are already pretty good odds he will flip to Oklahoma eventually, regardless of whether Keenan Hall leaves or not, if indeed Hall walks for Texas, even if Texas were to offer Rylan Morris, I would favor the Sooners in that race. Again, no sure things in recruiting, but I would favor the Sooners there. Back to the Knippelmeyer Chevrolet text line, because people have thoughts. A 918 listener says, what about Joseph Graves, D-tackle in the 2027 class out of Booker T. Washington High School up in Tulsa? Good call. I was thinking more along the lines of just keeping it pretty confined to 2026. Who in the 2026 class do you like that you think could be an OU caliber athlete and could have a senior year that puts him on the radar for the Sooners? Now, Joseph Graves, I believe his very first offer was from Oklahoma. I think he picked it up at camp this past summer. So OU is already laying the groundwork to land him, as they should. There's another stud up at Booker T that they haven't offered yet, and I'm not at all sure why. Dwayne Jones? Younger brother of Wayne Jones, who obviously had a nice career at Kansas State after Oklahoma kind of was 1 foot in, 1 foot out in recruiting him. So I don't know whether they're going to move on Dwayne Jones, but that next wave of 918 talent, it's a pretty solid group.
It is a very, very good group.
I'm really, really hoping right now, and I don't know for a fact that it's going to happen. We're trying to make it happen right now, but I'm really, really hoping that Xavier Okufuluezi is going to make it down to the Under Armour Next camp this weekend, because that is a kid that I want to see against better competition. He's a single A kid right now. Goes to Rejoice Christian High School up in Owasso. Looks awesome on tape. 6'5". I don't know if he's 6'5". He's probably 6'4". But tall, athletic, moves really fluidly, and just dominates the way that you would expect a D1 athlete to dominate at the single A level in Oklahoma. He's got some P4 offers. Oklahoma is not yet one of them. Before I render a judgment on what type of player he is, I want to see him against some better comp, and hopefully that opportunity comes this weekend. But I like him a lot, just based on what I see on tape. Bixby's got a pretty good 2026 group, Grayson, and I know you're pretty familiar with some of those guys. Trey McLaughlin, who could be a safety, could be a linebacker. Braden Presley, who is a safety, at least as far as Oklahoma's concerned. He does have an OU offer as a safety, but he plays corner for Bixby, yes.
Interesting.
And then Cord Nolan at linebacker. I don't think he's going to wind up with an OU offer, but good player.
A little bit light.
A little bit. Well, and just a little bit short, too.
Yeah, he's about 6 foot 190. Mm-hmm. Trey McLaughlin, though, just to go back to that.
I think that could, like, if there was a guy from that Bixby group outside of Braden Presley who currently has the OU offer, if there was a guy from that Bixby group that I think could wind up with the OU offer, I would probably go Trey McLaughlin, although Emory Snyder is another guy that's been blowing up as of late.
And Emory Snyder is a corner who is 6'4".
6'4"?
6'3", 6'4", I think.
I think we have him listed at 6'2".
Do you really?
Yeah.
He may have been listed at 6'3" on the roster that I got when I called one of their games. But he's big dude. He's big. He's not your average size corner. And Trey McLaughlin's 6'4". So if you can imagine having him as a cheetah, which is a kind of the position he already kind of plays at Bixby, 6'4", 195, that's menacing.
I'm going to give you another name.
Okay.
And we've brought up the name Bo Bentley a lot in recent weeks because there's a very good chance Oklahoma is able to add him to their 2026 class as a second quarterback alongside Jaden O'Neal. But let's just say, for the sake of the hypothetical, that Bo Bentley decides to go to LSU or Florida State or Texas Tech or one of the other schools that has thrown a hat in the proverbial ring for his services. A guy that I really, really like, I've been keeping an eye on, and he actually just picked up his very first FBS offer today. The quarterback at Sand Springs, Easton Webb, is his name.
I've heard a lot about him.
Yeah, I think he's committed to Oklahoma State right now for baseball. He's a two-sport guy.
Yes.
Yeah, I like him. So if Oklahoma gets to a certain point, and it doesn't necessarily have to be an absolute last-minute Jet New type of deal, but if they get to the point where, it's August, September, and you got to start looking locally because you feel like you have to have another quarterback in the class, maybe Easton Webb is worth throwing an offer to.
I mean,
we'll see.
And
I probably want to see some senior tape.
Right. And, of course, you have to juggle the baseball thing.
Mm-hmm. But Oklahoma can make that happen.
And
they have.
And I will say, it's
many times over.
It's easier to steal football players from Oklahoma State than it is for Oklahoma. Baseball is another story.
Yes, it is. How bad does the kid want to play football? That'll come into play as well.
And if he loves baseball enough, the Holiday family is right there at Oklahoma State.
All right, folks. That brings us to the end of another week here on Locked In. For Grayson Singleton, I am Parker Thune. Thanks for coming along for the ride with us today. Thanks for chiming in on the Knippelmeyer Chevrolet text line. And we will be eager to see you guys once again, same time, same place, Monday afternoon at 2 o'clock. Don't go anywhere, though, because up next, Tyler McComas and the Buckus Award winner himself, Teddy Lehman, have you covered for the next 3 hours on The Rush. You're listening to The Ref, the home of Sooner fans. Stay here.